It's got to load.
Hey everyone, I am Eric. This is my wife, Julie. We are the Blended Life.
Hello.
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 So tonight,
do you even know what we're talking about tonight?
yes, blended family stuff.
So tonight we're going to talk about leadership in a blended family and what that looks like, and help give you guys some good advice about how to lead your family. I think that there's a lot of power struggles that happen in blended families that way, including with the kids thinking that they're leading it.
Yeah, totally.
So we have a lot of good information to try to get the ball back in your court and not out of the kids' court, and how to effectively lead your blended family in the midst of all the chaos that is a blended family life.
All right. So where are we going to start tonight?
Well, I was going to ask you. He loves when I ask him questions.
Yes, unprompted. I swear we just talked about this maybe an hour ago.
But it occurred to me that I should probably do it then.
Wow, thanks. That is true teamwork right there, you guys.
But I am curious, you're a leader in our blended family.
I mean, outside of the podcast.
Well, one thing that I love about you as a man and as a husband and as a leader in our blended family, and something that I think a lot of us, including myself, can learn from you and have learned from you, but you know when to take the reins and you also know when to let them go. And I think I wrote this in a card to you for some occasion recently.
My birthday.
Did I?
Yep.
And I keep thinking about that because that's a really, especially for a man, well, women too, we all want to be in charge, right? And I think that's a really special quality you have, is that you love and trust me. And I think it has to do with trust, right? Mm-hmm. And that you really do see our marriage as a partnership, not a dictatorship. And I appreciate that about you. And it challenges me in such a great way, because I think that is a huge part of leading in a blended family, is that there isn't necessarily one leader, but two. And you have to know when to do that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the compliment. Yeah, there is. There's a lot of times where you just, or at least I just want to be lazy and be like, I don't want to take the reins on this. But there's a lot of times where you have to recognize your partner is needing to be led. And it took a long time for me to recognize that from anyone in life, getting to the point where I can recognize. And a lot of that comes from listening to you and paying attention to you and being able to recognize when you need to be led or our family needs to be led. And it wasn't something that just happened to me, young in age. And I'm like, hey, I'm just going to learn to lead and when not to lead. It comes from communication, listening, and understanding. Old age and wisdom. I had a lot of jokes I wanted to make in there. You said I was in charge. I wanted to say Charles is in charge. You guys remember that show? Anyways.
Yeah. Well, that's a really great quality, and
Thanks.
One that is very, very important, because I think that also when you get married, right, you each bring your own strengths to the marriage. And oftentimes, and it's certainly the case with you and I, is it's yin and yang, like my strengths are your weaknesses and your strengths are my weaknesses. And so to be able to know your spouse and your partner and be able to let people lead in their strengths and then step up in their weakness.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that's a really crucial dance to engage in with your partner in a blended family. It will really help to be in tune with your spouse so that you can figure out when to step up and when to step back.
Right.
Anyway, I want to lead also. I want to lead.
I'll step back and let you lead.
Leading is exhausting. It's a really important job, and it's something that, don't you feel like oftentimes kids lead, like the tail wags the dog a little bit?
Sometimes. And
yeah, I think
that's our problem as parents. I'm not saying us, you and I, but I'm saying that's parents' problem when you let the kids lead or you let the kids control.
Or dictate.
I like that word too, dictator.
Dictatorship.
Yeah.
You like that
It's a
word.
silly word. Anyways.
Any word with dick in it, he's like, whoa.
And the word tater. Like, anyways. Yeah, you know what? One time I think when you and I really recognized this is we were actually at Disneyland of all places, and our kids were arguing about what ride we're going to go on next. And we kind of gave them the way, it was on us. We're like, what do you guys want to do? And one kid wanted to do this, and the other kid wanted to do that, and the other kid wanted to do this. And it was totally on us that we let them pick and choose. And now all of a sudden we created an environment that allowed for bickering and discrepancies and
like pouting because people didn't get their ways. Like, it was chaos.
It totally was. So I think that was the first time that you and I really buckled down. I remember being so angry. I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, why are we letting them choose? We know what each one of them wants. Why don't you and I set the rules and be like, all right, well, first we're going to do this. Then we're going to do this because you like this and you like this. And then we're going to do this.
Disneyland sounds like so much fun.
No.
I love Disneyland.
I know you do.
I would live there.
Yes, you would.
I would.
So basically we came to the conclusion that we were going to tell the kids what we were going to do.
Yep.
And you either were going to go with us or you're going to go back to the room and not go with us. And that was the ultimate decision. And at first it was a little hard for them to get on board with that, but that's because of our decisions in the past. We had never ran it like that. Mm-hmm. We let the kids tell us what we were going to do next.
Yep.
And by doing it that way, all of a sudden it was a little hard at first, but all of a sudden it started to get a little bit easier. And by the end of the trip, everyone got to do what they wanted to do, and everyone had a lot more fun than when we had done it the other ways.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that what parents don't understand too, it's like they let kids lead to keep them happy. But the problem with that is that kids aren't equipped to lead a family yet. They're just kids. And so putting that kind of pressure and responsibility on a child to lead a family, whether you're meaning to or not, I think most parents would be like, I don't let our kids lead. But if you look at your family dynamic and who's running the show as far as like what your finances are being spent on, what your time is being spent on,
what's being eaten for dinner.
Yeah. If kids are running the show, that is giving them all the power. And I get wanting to make them happy, but it really doesn't make them happy because kids are not equipped, prepared, and capable to lead a family like that. And so you put this, a lot of pressure on them to keep the family happy. And I don't think they understand it as I'm putting it, but it happens to them psychologically, and then they always think the world revolves around them. And then they get out into the real world, and it's a really rude awakening. It's a very valuable lesson for kids to learn hierarchy, to learn boundaries, to learn rules. It will serve them well in life. And so I would just beware, I would look at your family and beware of letting kids rule the family dynamic. And blended family life is not an excuse. Like, a lot of people do it out of guilt or shame too.
Right.
Where they feel bad that their mom and dad aren't together anymore, and they feel bad for being divorced, and they feel bad for the two family situation. But that doesn't give you a pass to stop parenting your child because you feel bad.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you do see that a lot of times. That's where that saying Disneyland dad, comes in, where, you're trying to buy your kids love. You're taking them to the amusement parks and to the store, like the toy store.
You're trying to hotwire connection.
Are toy stores even a thing anymore?
No.
Sad.
Yeah, you're trying, the Disneyland dad and mom thing is, you're trying to hotwire connection based on a false reality, right? Like, you can't live at Disneyland, but I could.
You could.
But not really. My point is that when you try to hotwire connection only in the, like, cotton candy experiences of life, it's not reality and it's not real. And so that's a very dangerous connection to have with a child because it's not teaching them really anything.
Yeah.
And it's not a real, I mean, it's not a fake connection, but it's a connection that is very superficial and is hard to sustain for the rest of your life.
Well, that's the problem. They're going to get to be a certain age and you're going to realize like, hey, it's time for them to get out on their own, and they're going to know nothing else, and they're
Right.
not going to be able to get out on their own. And it's going to be extremely hard, not only for them, but for you as a parent. You're going to watch your kid basically fail because you have enabled them to live this type of life for so long without treating them or teaching them any different.
Right. And you want something more deeper with your kids, right? You need to teach your kids how to build relationships so they can go do that in their own lives. And if you're buying your way into your child's heart, how do you think they are going to go live their lives when they're building relationships with other people? And is that what you want for them? Do you want your son or daughter to really have to buy people to like them or feel that that is okay and they can be bought, or that's how they have to be in a relationship? It's very unhealthy. So we kind of got off subject, but it's very important.
It is important.
But to go along with that, marriage should be a top priority in your blended family. And it needs to be the top priority because your marriage is actually the core relationship in your blended family. So that is where the blended family needs to be led from, is that core relationship, which is the marriage, which is the husband and wife team, or husband and husband, or wife, or partners, or
Frogs.
hula dancers. I don't know.
Let's see if something works real quick. We've had some subscribers that haven't been on. Watch this. Did it work? Can you guys see that on screen?
I don't know. I can't see it behind me.
I hope it works.
Anyway.
There's some of our subscribers that have subscribed recently.
So what is leadership all about? Like, what do you think leading is?
Leading is, obviously the most obvious thing is leading, but it's also being an example. I feel like leading is leading by example. Leading is someone that is there to show right from wrong, that is there to set examples and show kids how to be the way that you would expect them to be as they grow up. You are supposed to lead by example.
Yeah.
So
I definitely think that is how the most effective way to lead your blended family is to live out where you want everyone to go. So if you want your kids to have a certain behavior or a certain attitude or a certain, hard work ethic, if you want their kids to be healthy, if you want them to be clean, you need to be living out those areas in your life.
You want your kids to brush their teeth in the morning and at night. You need to be brushing your teeth in the morning and at night.
That's true.
Right?
Because kids are very in tune to this, right? Like, well, you don't. Well, you don't.
Right.
Well, you don't.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't really resonate to them because they're like, why is it so important if my own parent isn't even doing it?
Right. Here's one that I have trouble with, and you do on our podcast, but scolding my kid for saying like words or phrases that he shouldn't. And then I totally do the same thing. I feel like you do the same thing to our listeners. So,
but they can cuss. I don't care.
They? Some of them can't.
Yeah. I mean, some things are age appropriate, right? Like my parents cuss, but I mean, it's not appropriate for a 10-year-old to say fuck.
Here we go, guys.
Or whatever.
Start us off.
I feel like, some things are age appropriate. All right. But leadership, leadership is about motivating your family to get to whatever goals you have. Motivating your family to get to whatever goals you have. And so I think the first step in leadership is that you and your spouse, need to sit down and decide, where do we want our family to go? What's important to our family? Do we want to be able to have successful blended family vacations? If that is the end goal, then we need to sit down and figure out how to get us there. how to motivate the kids, how to plan ahead, what we can do to get to that ultimate goal. You know, if we want to be financially solvent and that is a goal for our blended family, well, then we need to sit down and figure out how to get us to that goal.
Right.
What do we need to cut out? How do we need to save? You know, what bills are unnecessary? What can the kids go without? What can we go without? You know, you need to figure out for your blended family where you want to end up. You know, do you want your kids to be independent when they leave the house and be able to function and have roommates or go to college or someday get married? If that is the end goal of your blended family, to raise up self-sufficient, independent, respectful kids, you know, and I think that people lead without knowing where they're going. I don't think very many married couples, especially in blended families, actually sit down and figure out, like, what is our mission statement? You know, and there could be 20.
So you're saying run it like a business.
Kind of. Like, you have to know what your goals are. You have to know what kind of kids you want to raise up and be on the same page. You have to know, like, is owning a home important to our blended family, or are we okay with renting? You know?
Well, you've got to, you know, like we said, set examples, but you can't expect your kids to be one way, but not push that type of lifestyle. Or, you know, you want your kids to have manners when they grow up, yet no one in the family uses manners. You don't tell your kids to use manners. You don't hold them accountable for manners. You know, you're like, man, I hope my kid does dishes when they grow up, yet the kid has never done dishes in their life, right? I hope the kid is a good cook when they grow up, but they've never cooked a meal in their life.
Right.
You know, it's
well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm saying that parents actually need to sit down and make a list of what are your important values. Make a list of values. Like, what are your family values going to be? Is faith going to be important to you?
Right.
Is respect going to be important to you? Health, you know, are we going to be a healthy family, or are we going to not be a healthy family? You know, you need to come up with, and married couples need to come up with, like, a list of core values and then a list of goals, and maybe put them up in your house. And so I think when we, out of sight, out of mind, right? Like, and so the reason why I suggest putting them up is because if you have a board that you have goals, and that your whole family can see, of values and, you know, life goals, like, we're going to own a home someday. We're going to own a wedding venue someday. We are going to go on vacation someday. Whatever it is, you know, every time anyone in the family walks by, you know, it kind of is like a reminder, you know, like if cussing is not, like, we want to not have cussing in our home anymore.
Are we going to do the jar thing?
You could, you know, but you need to have those visual reminders, and you need to be on the same page, and you need to be working towards something. And a great leader sets out goals. A great leader defines the mission statement, you know, and I've heard of families who do make, like, all the kids get around the table with the parents. And how cool if you're getting married and you're not in a blended family, technically you don't have paperwork yet. Maybe one really cool thing that you can do before you get married, and then after you get married, have it framed and hanging up in your house. People are always asking, like, for weddings, ideas, something to do. Well, how awesome would it be for your family to all sit down and write out a mission statement? Like, these are our core values as a family.
Right.
You know, these are our goals. And everyone can sign it.
This is our 1-year goal. This is our 5-year goal. Yeah. This is our 10-year goal, so on and so forth.
Right. And then you guys can all sign it, date it, frame it, hang it up in your house. And then how cool, you know, in 25, 50 years later, you can see, like, we actually did that.
Make it with little check boxes.
Yeah. But somebody has to lead and put this together. And
that's you.
But I think
you listening or watching this. This is you.
But I think that parents don't do this. We just wing it. You know, could you imagine being in a business and just having bosses who wing it with no plan? You know, that
Can you imagine this?
No. I feel like bosses need vision. Bosses need plans. Leaders need vision. Leaders need plans. Leaders need, you know, to be able to encourage their their cohorts, their family members. You know, you have to be able to speak to something.
Right.
If you don't know where you're going, you can't lead, you know?
Yeah. Otherwise, what are you leading to?
Yeah. So I thought we would talk about some important skills for leadership. And the first one is communication.
I thought you were going to say strength,
No.
muscles.
You do need
Just
that.
kidding.
But I think
Virtual
communication is one of the biggest things.
Yeah, we talk about it quite often on the show. Without communication, you're kind of left in the silence. You have no idea. Communication of goals is communication, duh. You know, in order to get through to anyone, understanding values, reiterating values, it all comes down to communication. It's one of the number one things I think on our list of how to make relationships in general successful.
Right. And communication is only half talking, right? It's half listening and half talking.
Yep.
So you need to be a good listener. You need to listen to your family. You need to be able to be clear and concise and be able to speak into your family's lives effectively, right?
But not only listen to them, but also pay attention, watch them, you know, because someone might say one thing and totally mean the other thing.
Yeah.
Or say one thing because it's appeasing to whoever's asking, or they're trying to go with the flow.
Yeah.
But if their body language and actions are totally different from what they're saying, like it's your part as a leader to try to understand that, you know?
Yeah.
And I think as parents, you know, a lot of times kids are going to, you know, say or do what we want them to, but that right there is a big thing that I see missing with our school system. You know, there's going to be a bunch of kids out there now that don't have people listening to them, you know?
Yeah.
Teachers are not only there to teach children, but they are there to learn and understand the kids. And if there's a problem at home, they're kind of that barrier. They're the safe space to go to. There's going to be a bunch of kids at home now who have issues and problems that aren't going to be able to get solved because no one outside of their house can listen to them. You know, if the parents aren't in tune enough, you know, like we're talking about right now.
Yeah. Communication is a really big deal in leadership. And the next thing is awareness. You know, you need to be in tune and aware of your family's morale. So if you have, you know, what is it amongst the ranks? What is it? Like the bad thing amongst the ranks. It's a saying. I just can't think of it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Dissension amongst the ranks.
Okay. I think I know what you're talking about, but that's not it. But yes.
You know what
we know what you're talking about.
Right. Like you need to be aware.
If everyone's bummed out, the morale is down.
Chances are you have to turn the tide and do something to get morale up so you can ultimately get to your goal, or so you can get children to not be bickering and kids to not be fighting with you, and you know, to start doing what's being asked of them, type of a thing. Another important thing about leadership, and especially in blended families and especially with kids who already feel like they're getting gypped, is integrity, right?
Right.
You have to be honest and you have to have integrity.
Yeah, because kids see through that. Kids learn.
Yes.
Kids are smarter than we ever give them credit to be. Well,
Yes.
most of us, but yes.
Yeah, and they're very honest themselves, so they're like the bullshit whisperers of life. Kids are.
Kids are, huh?
And they sniff it out, right? Like kids, I think, just sit there and wait for parents to mess up, and then they can be like, see,
Right.
you're not perfect either.
Right.
So, but I think integrity and honesty is really, really important. So if you know, you guys, if you had a goal that wasn't reached, say, you know, goal was to go to Disneyland in 2020, but that didn't happen because Disneyland closed down, or that didn't happen because you didn't have enough money, you know, tell the kids that they didn't reach their goal because they didn't earn enough money, or a family doesn't have enough money, or the world's a disaster right now and Disneyland's not even open.
So we're going to save that money and we're going to put it towards something else, or we vote as an entire family to do something else.
Right. But what also comes with honesty? Honesty earns you respect.
Right.
And you cannot be a great leader without being respected. And so I think that one quick way to get you respected is just to always be honest and always let your family know that what you say is gold. Like, they can count on you and that you have integrity. If you mess up, you fess up.
The other side of that coin too is if you do mess up, being able to own up to it. Be like, look, I screwed up. Like, I was totally in the wrong about this.
That's right.
You know, like, own up to it.
Yeah,
and the kids will see that.
And
kids
they learn that.
Exactly. Yeah. Because it's a good quality when someone steps up and be like, look, I screwed up, rather than, you know, it's a bummer Live PD is no longer on the air, but 9 out of 10 times you pull someone over and they argue. I didn't run that stop sign. You know,
I wasn't speeding. I don't have drugs in my car.
Yeah, it's all lies. And it's so much, there's just no integrity there. You hear the couple of times when someone pulls, you know, they get pulled over and they go, yeah, I got a bag of weed in my car. And the cop's like, thank you. I'm going to take it easy on you because you were honest with me.
That's right.
And I'm going to show you some leeway. And I feel a lot of it's like common sense.
Right.
That works in the family situation too. You know, if your kid comes to you and goes, Mom, I totally just dropped your favorite coffee mug. I knocked it off the counter. It was a total accident. I'm sorry, you know. But then you come and you find you find it another time and it's either cracked and broken and just put away, or it's glued back together. I had a friend who was like really good at like gluing back together things and putting them back. I saw it happen like multiple times at one of my friend's house. But you're less likely to get in trouble, you know, when you find it and you find out and you're like, this thing's been altered. And I know pretty well what happened, you know, there's no integrity there. So now you're mad because not only are you getting lied to, but your thing's broken or something happened, you know, like just teaching your kids integrity. You guys know what it feels like to be lied to, especially when you know someone's lying to you. You're like, I'm not an idiot. Stop insulting me. But I feel like the kids take it the same way. Like, why are we going to lie to the kids?
Well, and here's the deal, right? If you don't want that behavior out of your kids, like you don't want the kid who's going to break the coffee cup and then hide it or try to glue it back together and not tell you, right? How do you get kids who don't do that? Well, your integrity is intact and you lead with integrity and you show that you make mistakes and you own up to it as a parent, your kids will follow suit. And so if you don't want kids to do that, then you don't live it out, that you don't try to cover your mistakes, you know? And I think that's a really important piece that parents don't seem to understand. Parents seem to think that they want to be superhuman and step parents, and kids try to live up to their parents. I think on some level they want to make their parents proud. And if you're a parent who just can never be wrong, then you're going to raise kids who can never be wrong. Or if they are wrong, they're covering their tracks. And sometimes that could be very harmful to them and to your family.
Well, and here's the other thing too, like we were just talking about. If your kid does come to you and they are honest, you know, don't just be harsh to them just because you want them to learn a lesson. Like, extend grace and let them know why you're doing it. Be like, look, I'm really not happy with you for breaking the coffee mug because I told you not to throw the football around in the house. You know, I'm really not happy, but I am glad that you came and told me, even after I told you not to do it. So maybe rather than having this punishment, I'm going to go a little bit lighter because you told the truth. You know, maybe rather than being grounded for a week, I'm just going to ground you for the rest of the day. Right. You know, if that's what it is, but maybe let them know because of their actions, they're still not going to be accepted. You know, it's not acceptable.
There are consequences.
There are always consequences.
For sure.
But they're going to be less because you saved us all this time and hassle. Right. And you were honest about it. You know, if it's something little, you know, maybe you let it go.
Yeah, you extend grace.
You extend grace. And
then your kids will extend grace.
As they get older,
get older. All right. So another skill of leadership, I think, is being creative, being able to think outside the box. Like, you can't be so stuck that you have to realize there's more than one way to do something,
Absolutely.
To achieve something, to get to a goal, to live out a value. right? And every kid is so different in your household, and your family dynamic has got so many personalities that to be a great leader in a blended family, you've got to be able to be a little bit creative
Right.
and a little bit able, like, to be a little, well, another one, it goes along with it, but like, well, we'll go later. Never mind. Sorry. But I wrote down next to creative to have an open heart and an open mind.
Right.
And I think that is part of it, right? Like, you have to be able to realize that you aren't the end all be all. There's other ways,
exactly.
Your kids might have a better way. Be open to that.
I think a lot of times, especially in our family, our kids do have better ways. I'll be working on something with my son and be like, hey, what's your thoughts on this? Or why don't you give this a try? I think I've talked about this with you in the past, learning to trust your kids. You're the one teaching them. You're the one raising them. If you can't trust them and expect them to know the right way to do something or right from wrong, then are you trusting them, or are you trusting the way that you're teaching them? I feel like it's our job to teach our kids to do things right. And if you do teach them to do things right, you should be able to trust them to do those things.
Yeah, I think that is a great way to lead, because it is so maddening when you're a kid. I remember this, and you're like, I know you've showed me how to do this like 20 times. Pretty sure I can screw in a nail.
I'm pretty sure you can screw in a nail.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Julie knows how to screw in a nail, you guys.
Really good at it.
Yeah.
But or I know how to hammer a nail. Is that good? Is that one?
She was not taught.
I wasn't taught.
Yeah.
It's just.
But for instance, yeah.
Yes, like if you've shown your kids, or you've shown your kids how to teach themselves.
Right.
One thing I do love about you and your son is that you guys are self-taught humans. If you both want to learn, and that's beyond me. Like, I have always had to have someone teach me, and that's how I was raised. I love school. I went to college. So to learn something, someone taught you, but it blew my mind kind of when you and I got together, because you are just self-taught. Like, you want to learn how to build anything, you figure it out. You watch YouTube videos, you research, you go online. And it's really, really, really neat to see. And that leads me in a lot. I'm like, oh, you mean I can teach myself? As stupid as that may sound, like, duh. It's but you've taught that to your kids, so your son knows a lot more even than what you're teaching him, because you've instilled in him to go research it and figure it out.
So one thing, though, that I have had to learn to do is, because I've taught him all this stuff, and it's kind of what I was talking about a minute ago, because I've taught him this stuff,
right?
Unless it's dangerous for him or just a completely irreplaceable thing that we're working on, I have to trust him. So, for instance, we built, and mostly him, last year, maybe a year before, he built the motor on his dirt bike. And I sat there with him while he did it, but I didn't really put my hands on it. It was him. I'd kind of look at things and talk it through with him. But it's like, if you're going to teach your kids to do something, trust that they're going to do it right. And if you tell them how to do something and you never let them do it, don't ever count on them being able to actually do it.
Amen.
And it was the same thing while building his computer. And I did the same thing with your son too. It's like, we're going to build this computer. I'm going to talk you through it and show you how to do it. But I'm not going to make you sit there and watch me do it. I'm going to sit there,
you're going to do it.
And you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And I'll call you out if you're going to do something wrong. And I'll tell you why you're doing it wrong and what needs to be done differently. I'm not going to get mad at you, because I'm the one teaching you. So it's our job as parents to not only teach our kids how to do things, but to trust them
and
once
let
we've
them
taught them.
actually do the things you're teaching them to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I think a great leadership skill is being a facilitator of relationship building.
Oh, yeah.
So a great leader in a blended family will look for opportunity for relationship building, will create opportunity for relationship building, will encourage relationship building, will be in relationship with everyone in their family as well. So that is a huge thing whenever you hear of companies that are very successful and everyone's really happy. It's more like a family, right? There's loyalty there because they feel like a family. They're invested in this company more than just a paycheck, right? They have relationship. And that is great leadership. And that is something that lacks in blended families a whole lot because everyone's so sterile. Do you know what I'm trying to say in blended families?
Yeah.
A little bit. You know, we don't get down and dirty and in the trenches together. We don't make our kids get in the trenches together a lot. And we don't facilitate the relationship building or promote it or encourage it or seek it out or force it even sometimes that we should be doing. But I think that that is a disservice to families if you don't, but like if relationship building isn't a key thing in your blended family as a leader, then I think that is a disservice to your family.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and then going a little bit further with that, help your kids mend relationships. You know, if they're, well, I mean, what used to be playgrounds, but, you know, if they're out with their friends or they're online with their friends and they're getting into an argument with something you know, or with someone about something, don't just be like, yeah, you know, tell them this and throw them to the curb. You try to talk them through it. You know, what is happening? What, you know, what did they say? What did you say? What was done? How are we going to fix this? How are you going to fix this? And give them tools, how to fix that and how to save relationships, not how to abandon relationships. And I feel like a lot of people, especially in the social media world it is today, are so quick to have different political opinions and just be like, well, I don't need that friend anymore. I'm going to throw them away. Well, that friend's been a friend for 30 years, you know, but I'm just going to get rid of them because they have a different political view than me, or they have different thoughts on, you know, something in the world than I do. Learn to accept people. You know, everyone has their own opinions. If people just got rid of you because of your opinion, you'd feel pretty crappy, right?
Right. You can value, you need to teach your kids that you can value people even if you disagree with them. That because people don't align politically, religiously, whatever as you, doesn't mean that person isn't
any less valuable
right. Or any less of a person, you know? And that's, relationship building. But what I have like a little story real quick in
just a wee one.
You were saying like,
I have my finger on the
no, it's actually, I'm not going to cuss, but so my kids went to, I graduated from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and my kids went to the children's center there. And let me tell you, that place made me a better mom. I'm forever grateful to the women and men that I encountered there, because one huge thing I learned that goes along with relationship building is they actually gave kids, like, if kids were bickering over a toy, right? No, my toy. No, my toy. No, my toy.
No, my toy.
No, my toy.
No, my toy.
So these teachers would get, you know, on the child's level, and they would sit there and they would script out for them how the conversation should go. So they'd be like, Johnny, why is this your toy? And the kid would have to be like,
yes,
well, I was playing with it first. Okay, well, when you're done playing with it, you know, can you give it to Susie? And Susie will be like, I want it now. And, you know, they would say, like, Susie, it's not your turn. You know, like, they get there and they can say, like, well, Johnny, how does it make you feel? Why don't you tell Susie how it makes you feel when she is trying to take the toy away from you? And Johnny could be, well, it makes me mad. So you could say, okay, well, tell Susie it makes me mad when you take this toy away from me. And then Johnny turns to Susie and says that. It makes me mad when you take this toy away from me. And that is marriage therapy 101.
So what it does is it slows people down, or in this case, children, slows them down, and it makes them think of the situation. It makes them think of the feelings. It makes them think of the actions, and it makes them think of the reactions.
Communicate effectively.
Ultimately, it comes down to communication and communicating your feelings, your thoughts, your opinions, and
right, because that little fit of my toy and like the angry, you know, could make someone feel like you just don't like them. When it has nothing to do with you don't like them, it just has to do that you're not done playing with it yet, and you would be happy to share when you're done. Just give me a second. But it has no, but people take it out of context. And that's why relationship building is super important. If you can help your kids like script them through that and give them the words, get on their level and have like conversations so that they can put it into the correct words and the correct mindset, they will be able to have successful relationships with other people. But you need to do that as parents and as leaders, I think. All right.
No, my toy.
So I have next down developing, just developing, but like not developing film.
Developing sentences.
No, but like being able to develop and grow each member of your family, right? So I think that when you, like, what's a kid's favorite question is why? And you kind of touched on this earlier, but I think that a great leader explains not only where we're going, but why we're going there and how we're going to go there and how you're going to be able to get yourself there too. So you need to be able to educate and teach and grow and develop members of your family so that you can all get to the same place. And so when your kids are gone, they're equipped to be able to figure out and be able to go where they want to go.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then also to take it a step further and then be able to do the same thing, lead and facilitate and be a good parent.
Yeah.
In their endeavors.
Yeah. So, and then the last thing I had written down, which you kind of already talked about, was just being adaptable. Like great leaders shift when things shift. You know, the business, you know, your business has to change and evolve when times change and evolve, when the market changes and evolves. Well, the family's no different. You know, your family might have to figure out new ways to have fun because you can't afford to go to Disneyland and Disneyland is closed anyway. You know, so what else are we going to do? We're just never going to have fun because we can't go to Disneyland? No, right. We got to figure out something else. And, you know, and a leader has to, and we said not be stuck earlier, but also has to be adaptable to change. Like you can't just be so stuck in your ways that nothing else is going to do, because it's unreasonable for you to expect everyone in your family to be just like you, right. Or for the world to be just like you. Yeah,
and realize the differences and the qualities of each member of the family and be able to facilitate to each one of those, you know, be able to make sure that you guys can do something that everyone enjoys doing. No one feels threatened or hurt by something that you're going to go do, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, for instance, you know, it could be we're going to go on a family walk, but one of the kids in our family is in a wheelchair and can't walk, you know? So is going on a family walk going to be the best thing all the time? Well, maybe if that kid enjoys being pushed around, you know, rolled around, you know, that might be fun. But, you know, next thing is, are we going to go on a hike up a mountain, you know, that this person can't do, you know? So it's things like that. I mean, obviously that's a very common sense analogy that I just gave. But if one of your kids just truly doesn't enjoy something, you know, maybe trying to figure out something that they all enjoy, you know, or your wife doesn't like something or your husband doesn't like something. Don't go do that constantly.
Don't bring home the gag and ball.
I don't even know what that means.
You don't?
No. Anyways.
I'll show you under the bed later.
Oh my gosh. What is that? I've been so good about making jokes tonight, and here you come. I had like 6 Michael Jackson jokes earlier. I had so many Michael Jackson jokes earlier. I like Michael Jackson.
I think a great leader in a blended family also has to take the time to pour in to each person in the family.
Absolutely.
You can't just be into yourself and your kid. You have to pour into everyone in the family.
You have to be willing to be there for everyone. You know, if just your biological kid comes to you and you'll only help them, and then your stepkid comes to you or stepkids come to you and you just blow them off, you're never going to be the true leader of your household. You're never going to have the respect that you probably want. And it's also going to probably be noticed by your spouse, and it's going to be a detriment on your relationship.
And causes dissension.
Wow, we're using some big words
Is that
tonight.
the right word?
Sure.
I think it is.
Yes.
Yeah, but good leaders, take time and make time. Good leaders run the schedule, and run the finances, and they don't let the circumstances control them. They control the circumstances.
And adapt to those circumstances. A lot of them are out of our hands and out of our control. And it's our job as the leaders to make the best do that we can.
That's right.
With the situation and what's at hand.
Right. And great leaders also make time and take the time and schedule the time and prioritize time. Because if you have a boss who's too busy to run the company, what's going to happen to the company? If they're never there, if they're always gone and they're doing something else, well, first of all the employees are like, fuck this guy.
There we go, guys.
He's never here, so I don't like, he doesn't care, I don't care.
Right.
And kids are like that too. So, I appreciate everyone has jobs and everyone is very busy with life, but make sure you're taking the time to pour into your family as a leader in a blended family, because if you want good morale and you want kids to care like you care and you have expectations for kids and your family, you best be there to, lead by example. You best be there to hold accountable those values. And, you have to hold yourself accountable, but you have to hold other people accountable, and you can't if you're not present.
Well, we had done one of our food for thoughts on this a long time ago when we were doing this quite a bit. If you guys want food for thoughts to come back, let us know in the comments. But we had done one on just showing up and being present for your family,
right.
And a big one is, we don't have a lot of sports going on right now, but eventually they're going to come back. We don't have school, awards, assemblies don't come, But anyways, have your kids show up for one another. Don't just be mom and dad showing up for the kids, and then the kids don't show up for one another. Like, teach them how to be a family unit. If little Johnny has a sporting event today and little Susie never has to come to that, well, why is little Susie why is little Johnny gonna ever come to little Susie's events? You know what I mean? It's gonna be like, well, she comes to all of my things, but I don't want to go to her things. Well, vice versa. They've got to learn to support one another, and that's a big thing as an adult, as a parent, is showing up for your kids. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate with this. You're like, I wouldn't miss my kid's event for the world. There might be a circumstance here and there that prevents you. You might have to be out of town on a business, or something. Sometimes there are circumstances, but if you can make most of the events and always show up, just showing up is 90% of the battle, So teaching your kids to show up and be there for one another is just such a huge thing that brings you guys together, brings you closer.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make one kid come to one of the kids' birthday parties, but the other kid gets to leave and not show up to the other kid's birthday party. You guys go out to dinner together, all the kids show up.
Right. The kids need to be in the trenches.
They don't get to
together.
escape and go somewhere else, because it's not their birthday. Like, that's not fair.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you need to lead by showing up and then expecting your kids to show up. But you can't get mad if you're not there. But you expect them to be there, but you're not going to show up.
Right.
Type of a thing.
Especially, for instance, this weekend, it's one of our kids' birthdays, and I've got an invite to go play hockey, which I haven't got to do a ton. I've played hockey. I played hockey finally. What night was it?
2 nights ago.
2 nights ago.
And you're playing tomorrow night.
For the first time in 4 months, 5 months. Yeah. And I get to play now. But I got invited to go Sunday. But it's like, wait, I checked in with you. I think we have dinner that night. It's for one of our kids' birthdays. Of course I can't go play hockey. Of course I have to show up for our kid, It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, you've got to be selfless when you are a leader, when you are a parent, and you have to sometimes sometimes literally you just have to put the kids first. And I mean, obviously things like birthdays, that's a no-brainer. But there's a lot of times where, someone might be down on their luck. You might only have $10 in your wallet and you need to buy lunch. Well, you need to feed those kids. You need to put the kids first a lot of times and learn to be selfless and not selfish and just lead by doing what's best for your kids and best for the situation.
Yeah. And I think that it kind of reminds me of sacrifice. And I think leading through sacrifice is just like Jesus, who is like the greatest leader of all times, because what did he do? He led by example, and he led through being sacrificed physically, but his whole life was doing the lowliest of things and the mightiest. But he wasn't too good to wash feet. He wasn't too good to break bread with anyone.
Really, yeah, literally.
Or be in the presence of the lamest of people, and I
that
think
was the reason one of the reasons he got persecuted so much. It's like, why would you waste your time on someone like this,
Yeah. And I wrote down a Bible verse because,
let's hear it.
Yeah, so Matthew 20:28 says, "For the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." And I think that is such a huge leadership quote, way to exist in blended family life, that you can even, if you don't get anything else, receive this. You are not too good to do the lowliest of tasks or sacrifice for your family. And when you lead by serving, maybe not sacrifice, but like, let's just use serving.
Yeah.
When you lead through service, what kind of kids do you think you're going to raise? Compassionate, considerate, thoughtful, respectful, honoring, caring, right? That's the kind of human beings you want to raise. Then that is how you need to lead your blended family, is through service, through serving your spouse, through serving your family, through sacrifice and dying to yourself sometimes so that your family can be better off and so people can be loved and poured into. If you're not ready to be in a blended family, don't be in a blended family.
Well, there's a lot of people that use their past as an excuse, That's just the way that my parents raised me, and that's my childhood and my upbringing, and that's just the way I am. But there's a lot of people, and I know a few of you are listening right now, that take those negative upbringings and experiences, and you use them for good. You learn from them. And I think that's what a lot of people need to do. Is things may not have always been great. Things may not have always been great in your blended family and in your relationship, but take all those negative things and turn them into positive things. Learn from all those mistakes and be like, you know what? We're not going to live like this, because this does no good for us.
Yeah, you can choose to be better at any time.
Yeah,
you can choose to do better.
Just because you
anytime.
Had a rough upbringing and your parents weren't so good to you doesn't mean you need to be that same type of parent to your kids. And
right.
I feel like a lot of people do learn from that.
Yeah, they do, because you know better.
You know better.
You know better. You know what kind of parenting doesn't work, or what kind of parenting is hurtful, and every parent makes their own mistakes. My parents made their mistakes. I'm making different ones, right?
Yep.
Hopefully I learned from my parents' mistakes and I'm not repeating that.
I do too, yeah.
But we're making our own because we're imperfect, and hopefully our kids will learn from our mistakes. And,
But learning to own up to them and be like, look, that was a mistake. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have talked to you this way. I shouldn't have said that to you.
Or I shouldn't have allowed you to have 10 pixie sticks at 2 a.m. and then gotten mad at you for not going to bed. Probably that's all my fault.
Snorting lines of pixie sticks again, huh?
I think that we make a lot of decisions in the moment and regret it later. Right?
Yeah. What is that white stuff above your
my
lip?
gosh.
Yeah.
All right, but we should probably wrap up, yeah?
Sure.
But I think the biggest thing in leadership in a blended family is you need to empower What?
I'm just laughing that you're asking me if we should wrap up. Like, anyways.
Why?
It's just funny, like how I'm sure you guys are probably laughing right now too. Like, that's just not the way
No
that
one's
shows.
even watching or listening. Never
They
mind.
will be.
They will be.
If you're watching or listening to this, leave an F in the chat
Oh my gosh.
in honor of Julie.
But so leading your blended family is empowering them to be the best that they can be
In the blended family.
No, but empowering them to be able to go where you want your family to go, empowering them to live the life that you want for them, to have the values that you want. You can't expect someone to be healthy and then not keep fruits and vegetables in the house, but be pissed that they're overweight or, not healthy. You can't expect your kids to go exercise and you never get off the couch. So you need to empower your family's values by living it out, by providing the tools
And leading by
to
example.
achieve them. Yeah. So
Anyways, well, if you guys found this helpful, leave a review. We haven't had many reviews lately, so if you made it this far and you're enjoying this, please leave a review on your favorite podcasting. However you're listening to this, right now I know iTunes is a big one. We've got some pretty funny reviews on there too. But if you guys are watching this on YouTube and you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. We'd love to have you as a subscriber. Hit that thumbs up button, ring the notification bell, and you'll be notified at any time we go live or we upload something new. But if we go live, we would love to have you chime in with us and give us some input and chat with us, and we'll totally chat back with you and answer questions live. And we just appreciate you guys being here and being a part of our blended family. So we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye, you guys.